Welcome back to the Orbital Tribe. I'm so excited about today's guest. Her social media page and her carousels have helped me so much. This is an introduction to some, but a reintroduction to many. This is Kelley from the Black Girl Burnout podcast. Kelley, welcome. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. And thank you for the kind words. Like, I
Of
think the work
course.
that we're doing together is so important. So I really admire what you're trying to do with Orbital
Oh,
Tribe,
no, no, no.
and
I am.
it is mutual.
That is sweet, and generous of you to say, but with your background and everything that you're contributing, I'm just supporting people like yourself. Which, by the way, will you introduce yourself to those who might not be as familiar with you yet, but I know they will be after this?
Yes. Hi, everyone. I'm Kelley Bonner. So, I am the host of the Black Girl Burnout podcast. My background is I'm a licensed clinical therapist. I'm in the DMV area. I have done a lot of psychoeducational work, particularly with helping people manage anxiety, stress, and burnout. I'm an expert in that. And then I also work with organizations. Like, I help organizational culture shift to be able to tolerate what it's like out here in the world today. So, that is me.
So, what made you? I mean, I'm pretty sure the answer is kind of obvious to all of us, but uh, on a deeper level, or I guess, what was the provocation to make you start the Black Girl Burnout podcast? I guess what events transpired? Was it
It was a
major, or
couple
was
of
it just a
things.
bunch of things? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it was a couple of things. So it's a good question because as I think about it, like it wasn't just one thing, it was a couple of things. So one unrelated, like I started the podcast in 2021. So but I experienced what I call my like spectacular burnout in 2009. So we're going way back. I
Wow.
burned out of like my first kind of professional, very, very young job. And I had been looking for like the language of that. I didn't know what that was. I just knew like I the kids say crash out. I knew I crashed out of a job and could not do the job no more, and I was real upset about it.
Was it like a crash out, like flip the table,
Yes.
you suck, your mama's
Yes.
this, but oh wow, oh,
Yes, it was a crash out.
can
It
you
was a real
tell
crash
us
out.
about
When I
that?
quit, I mean, I didn't flip a table exactly, but so like long story short, real quick detour to tell you this story because it was a crash out. Is I was working in a prison system, and I acknowledge that most people do not grow up wanting to work in prison systems, but I did. I really wanted to do that
Wow.
work. I really thought this was like my calling. And 3 years in, I was like, I hate everybody. I can't do this job. And when I quit the job, they had given me, I had no job lined up, and they had given me a card that had like a cat hanging on by a rope, and it was saying, like, hang in there. And I was like, y'all have bullied me. Y'all have treated me the worst I've ever experienced. I'm in a puddle crying on the floor after working this job. And I just went off. I was just like, they wanted a goodbye speech, and I gave them a goodbye speech. And I was like, some of y'all, I will get in my car. And it was a whole thing. Like, the prison was huge. So I was like, I'll get out my office door, I'll go through all the gates of the prison, I'll get in my car, I'll go home, and I'll remember you for a lifetime. And then I worked it on back, less and less time. And then it was like, and I point at some of them, I say, and some of y'all, I'm gonna walk out of this door and I won't remember your names.
Mm.
And that was how I quit the job.
I love a good crash out. I'm sorry. Because we all want to behave badly. Like, my favorite characters are people who behave. I play a character who behaves badly because
Yes.
it's cathartic. Like, every once in a while, there is a justifiable crash out, and it sounds like you had one. And I get it. I get it. So,
It's I mean, I think it's better to play a character that crashes out and get that out your system than to be a crash
absolutely,
out. I will having said, I tell people all the time, like, now I teach people how to manage their symptoms so they don't do that. That's not
absolutely.
really an ideal way. But there is a part of me, because I always tell people I'm not fully there yet. I'm with y'all learning the skills. So I'm still like a little petty. So there's a part of me that really was like, girl, good for you. Tell those people, but it was a crash out, and it was something that I took years to recover from. I mean, that's how bad it was. And
Mm.
I also, along the way, to your original question, was like landing the plane of like why I started this podcast. It's like I realized that, one, I was learning the language of burnout for myself, and two, that it was a little different. That as a Black woman, I was experiencing things a little bit different over and over in jobs that may be like, oh, there's a specific kind of burnout for Black women. I'm
Talk
having a
more
Black
about
girl
that.
burnout. And so
Talk
my
more
thing
about
was
the
like,
specificity of what a Black woman's burnout looks like that is, indicative of, our experience, please.
I think for Black women, it's so much of us, I say this a lot too, is that so much of who we are is an unlearning that's been placed on us. So, right, we act in ways, right, that are not originating with us. Like the thesis, like the point of the podcast, the reason why I create the podcast is I was looking around being like, Black women, we think struggle is our life's mission. Like it's not even something we even think about not doing. It's like this is just what it means. To be a Black woman means to struggle. And if
Mhm.
that's your thought pattern all the time, right? No wonder we burn out so quickly. No wonder we take behavior that we should never take. And so I'm like, what would it look like to teach people that actually, when we look at our true inheritance, we look at our culture, it's like one of joy, it's one of community, it's one of beauty. It's like this is what we actually were born to be and live like. And yet we live lives that are of struggle. So what would it look like if we just were like, I'm opting out of that. Like I'm not gonna let that be my story. And it shows up in burnout and the way that people mistreat us. Like we're dealing with sexism and racism as Black women.
The
And
compounded
that's another layer.
exponential effect of that.
Yes.
'Cause it's one thing to be Black, it's another thing to be a woman. But
Yeah.
when you combine the 2, it's not addition, it's exponential. So, yes, yes.
Yes, it adds to it. And those are the kinds of unique flavors. I tell everybody can experience burnout. Burnout is a universal phenomenon. There is no race or gender or orientation to burnout. But if you are Black and you are a woman, you just said it perfectly. It is it adds to it. It's like
Mhm.
times 2 and then times 4. And then you deal with people who mistreat you and expect you just to take it. And when you live a life where you're feeling you just have to take bad behavior, it's not surprising that you're going to burn out a lot quicker or differently than like a white man who still can burn out, but will burn out differently.
Yeah. Wow. It's just so ugh, it's so refreshing to hear because as someone who is still dealing with burnout, right? Like, who I have recently discovered things about myself and how, like, I'm chasing dopamine. Have you heard of that little farm game? What is it called? Township?
No, but is it like where you're playing it? It sounds
Yes,
like things
and,
that
like,
you
all
get
it's like
obsessed.
and I figured I became obsessed the first time I started playing it because I figured it out. I was like, "Oh my god, it's a dopamine nonstop train of dopamine." I'm like, "Why am I calling for so much dopamine? Like, why am I looking for such a dopamine hit? Because I'm not gonna get it from drugs, I'm not gonna get it from sleeping around, I'm not gonna get it from alcohol. I mean, it's actually a depressant. So, like, what is it that I'm looking for?" And I realized, like, it's tied to burnout, like, a
Yeah.
overall, like, complex and mentality that's been kind of holding me down, but, like, just that mentality has called for, like, me to be in this, like, kind of cozy bubble and not really wanna, like, get too uncomfortable and, like, looking for that dopamine because of years of burnout and fighting against that because, like, I don't know how many episodes you've been able to watch where I've talked about my experience as being someone who was a rebel and, like, kind of questioning, like what you said, like, why do we accept this? Like, in my family saying to the women and the men, like, "Why don't we all help so we're not in here arguing with each other about whose turn it is to do the dishes because we're all tired, but we're letting this group of people relax. This group of people enjoys their holiday, and this group of people comes here to like slave to bring the
Yeah.
magic of the holidays to everyone else." And that's the thing. There are Black women who get it, like yourself, who see it, and then they get pushback from the entire community, especially other Black women who want to stay in those chains for whatever reason. I think maybe they get validation from playing the role well, but I mean, yeah, it's incredible.
It's well said. I think that's true too. There's like there is something interesting happening right now though, where more I think women are starting to wake up and be like, this can't be right. This doesn't feel right. This can't be right. I'm not going to be in this. And I do think that there's that going on. But I do think when you begin, there's something really, really difficult about saying this doesn't fit because so much. I tell a lot of people that for Black women, so much of what we think is ambition is just conditioning. And
Ooh.
that is, and everything that's in doing the, like being the person that made the best Thanksgiving meal, and the ambition to do that is really just conditioning to like betray yourself and be a slave. But it's like a reframe. It's like, well, I'm not being a slave. I want to be the best person at this holiday. Or I'm not being a slave. I want to be the best person at my job, or I want to be the best partner. And so much of what we think is ambition and go get it, girl, and yeah, you got it. We do better than anybody. I hear Black women be like, nobody does it like us. I'm like, yeah, but should we? Certain things, it's like, is that the goal, to be like the best, being taken advantage of, having the least resources and getting it done anyway? Is that really what we want? Is that what we want for our kids? Is that what we want for our nieces and nephews, spiritually or literally our daughters? Like, is that what we want? I want you to do the best with the least. Why
So
are we
what do you
proud of
think?
that?
So exactly, like, what do you think about? I feel like the term started to really rise between like the 2010s, right around where you hit your burnout, and like now it's still just kind of it's just embedded in our culture, but the culture and the ideology of Black excellence, not like literally, but like the actual outcomes of the pursuit of Black excellence.
I think it's tied to strong Black women, like the myth of that strong Black womanhood. It's an attempt. To be fair, it's an attempt to take something that's negative, like slavery, like being taken advantage of and abused, and all these things, and to make it positive. It's like, look at the resilience of the culture, and look at how excellent we are. But
Absolutely.
when it's taken too far, I think the problem is that we haven't been able to say that got us to where we are. That doesn't have to take us to where we want to go, and that we need to redefine Black excellence. And Black excellence is softness, Black excellence is rest, Black excellence is achievement. But can we put that further down to the other things? Black excellence is loving each other. Black men and Black women loving each other, and not just like in romantic ways, but in all the ways. Let's redefine what Black excellence looks like beyond we survived and got to this point.
An achievement and perfectionism
Yes.
and acquiring stuff, but never really healing cognitively. Like you were talking about, it's actually just conditioning. It's to me, it's like I kind of visualize someone gaslighting themselves into thinking that it's ambition, when in reality, it's the way that the world has told us that our value and existence is not only allowed, but the only way that we are worthy is if we are willing to break our backs, and if we are willing to make something out of nothing and get it done, then and only then will the world give us a tiny corner of the society, not a prominent corner, not a place of honor, but just a seat at all. Of course, not at the table, but okay, you get to breathe some of our oxygen if you can be a servant to me, if you are useful to me. That is where your worth is. And I find that so often, like you said, with Black women, where we will, I mean, my mom had a coworker who took care of everyone in her family. um and this woman sat down one day, she sat down and never stood back up. She literally worked till she dropped. And how many like, I feel like we all know at least one Black woman that has done that, that just sat down one day and didn't get up, or maybe fell out in the yard or something like that. And I just think that, like you used a beautiful word, that's not our inheritance.
No, it is a lie, and it's hard to let go of the lie, because the lie has brought so many people comfort, and that's what I understand, and I have a lot of empathy because I was in it. I was in it, doing extra, doing the most, trying to prove myself, juggling all these things, sick. I was physically ill. A lot of people experience burnout. They have illness, right? They end up with, Black women have a disproportionate amount of immune diseases and all kinds, PCOS and endometriosis. It's like yep, me too. So many people have that, and it's all trauma related and stress related and us trying to survive. So I
Mm.
want to leave space for that and honor that there are people who are still really attached to it because it's what got them to where they are. And that's where I'm really, I say, okay, well, that's what got you to where you are, but is that where you want to go? And to your point, do you want to end your life just dropping? That's not what anybody wants. You want to be surrounded by loved ones or go peacefully in your sleep or whatever that is, but you want to live a life that has you in it. And I think the other thing that Black women don't leave room for, they may get stuff, they may acquire things, they may have titles, but where are you? Where do we get to be us? And where do we get to develop an identity that's true to us, that's not linked to achievement or perfectionism? Where do we get to daydream? Where do we get to have joy that's not rooted in sadness? We're not laughing in spite of a bad thing. We're just laughing because it's funny and something good and joyous has happened. Where do we get that? And where do we make the time to develop that? And that's what I tell people when they to reposition. It's like, okay, you got here. There's nothing wrong with how you got here, but maybe where you go from here makes room for those things that, let's be honest, when we're in that space, we're not thinking about it. I never thought about, well, what's going to make me laugh just because. I was like, no, I got career goals. I have things I have to do. I have the legacy of being a first generation American. Like, I have all these things I need to do that wasn't even thinking, wasn't even a thought. And
Mhm.
now it's like we get to in 2025, despite the fact the world's on fire, we get to still make that time. That today is the moment to actually do it. And that is its own form of resistance and its own form of activism. It's like taking
Black
care of
joy is
yourself and pursuing
resistance.
joy.
Yeah. Black joy is resistance for sure. Which, speaking of, you mentioned you are a first generation American.
Mhm.
Talk to us about that and, your childhood and your upbringing and your background. And I guess maybe how it contributed to that, 2009 pivotal moment.
Yeah, I have an interesting background. My father was from Louisiana, and so he was American. Came up through segregation. It ended for him when he was like a senior in high school. So he grew up in segregated South. And then I have a mother who's European by way of the West Indies. And so my father was in the military. They met overseas, and so I came with this like blended cultural experience of like West Indian child achieve. This kind of like we can do it energy of like anything you put your mind to, you've got. So I had really supportive parents. And I had parents that were like, you can do whatever you want. But I, within myself, I also grew up in a predominantly white area, which also I think formed a lot of how I showed up in the world and how I navigated identity. And so I was an only Black child a lot of the times in like classrooms and different places like that, friend groups. It was like this extra push to prove something, right? It's like I've got all that in the background, then I've got to prove to these white folks, like they're out here being like, "Oh, Black people, you have hair on your arms, like you're a zoo animal," like really and truly, like genuinely naive. Like this, we're not even talking about like the toxicness of like
White people
racism.
don't
I
have
mean,
air on their arms? Come on now.
clueless. I know. And I was like, don't pet me. That kind of level of ignorance, of like not understanding, like never experiencing Blackness. So
Mm.
really being curious in all the weird, wrong ways. And coming from that, I was like, well, I got to prove myself. Like, it's not about me. I got to care, in second grade, we were like bringing the NAACP to my, grade school and being like, you're going to learn about Black people today. Like, we're going to show you. So that fueled a level of perfectionism, though, that made me crash out in 2009 because I had spent my whole life being like, you got to be better. The same thing everyone can identify with this, right? You got to be twice as good to get half as far. But this idea of like being the best, pushing yourself. And I came from a long line of women, maternal figures who were doing nothing and made it something.
Mm.
Home ownership and business ownership and all that when everything was against them. And so I think that fueled both my ambition and my successes to the positive, but to the negative, a lot of things I had to unlearn around perfectionism and pushing past the point of like my abilities just to say to do it. And even when I didn't have to do it, I was like, I'm gonna do it the hard way because I gotta prove to you that I could do it this way and excel. And I think it's what contributed to the burnout and also what contributed to me being like, oh, I need to change. Like I'm not gonna make it. I'm not gonna make it at this rate to be older, to be an auntie or a grandma or whatever. I'm never gonna make it if I don't make some changes.
Absolutely. That's Yeah, I think for a lot of Black people, that's why one of the things I push on my channel is healing individually and a collective healing, because there's so much we're passing down, not only through epigenetics, but through culture. And it's just like I can see anxiety in Black children that I don't always see in children of other ethnicities, that I'm just like, gosh, their gut lining is already going to be off. Their cortisol levels are going to be through the roof. Like, there's just a carefreeness that other people have that contribute to an overall health and well being that Black people, we have to give ourselves. And in fairness to every other human being on the planet, no one else is going to give it to them either. There
Yeah.
just isn't that compounded effect of racism, of course, because the human condition is the human condition. But Black people, we have to give this to ourselves and our children, because literally no one else will, especially right now in 2025, and we see what's going on around us. We are going to have to create places of rest, healing, wellness, because of what's going on. Like, there's going to have to be a soft landing place for us.
And it's gotta be our own creation.
Yeah.
Well, beautifully said. That's one of the things I was interested in grad school. I studied the intergenerational transmission of trauma. Like, that was my interest, and I looked at slavery and I looked at the Holocaust. That was my thesis, was writing about how it shows up in present day, things that happened many years, and epigenetics and all those things play a part. And to your point, there's also, I call it the lightness of whiteness. There is a lightness that white people
Bars.
have. It but it's like I always tell people, I'm getting the lightness of whiteness. That's about to be my life. Like, I want that. What they've got, I want. And I can get it. Like, I'm working
I've
real hard to
decided,
have that.
yeah, like I told someone recently, I was like, I've decided to live life with the audacity of a heterosexual, wealthy white man.
Yes, that's how I live
Able
too.
bodied.
Good for you.
Able bodied. Yeah.
Yes,
The
yes,
audacity.
and mediocre. And they
Yeah,
don't have to
and
be great. This is
mediocre.
mediocre. A mediocre white man is how that's how I got to where I got. There was a point in my life where I said, "Oh, I'm doing it wrong. I need to act like this." And I think, and boy did it get easier. But it's like, there is a lightness that comes with being white and privilege. Like, you could argue it's privilege. It's not that white people were born light. It's that they, without that burden. It's that culturally and privilege has given them a lightness that you see. I'm like, look at these folks smiling at the farmer's market. That's going to be me. Like, that's going to be me. So guess what I do? I get up on a Saturday and I smile at these white folks and they smile back at me, and I get fresh vegetables and I try a new pickle recipe that they want you to try. That's what I'm doing, because
Yes.
I realized that that is something that they pass on, that
Yeah.
we are not going to pass on to our kids if the conversations we have are always and only in reaction to struggle
Yes.
and racism. And I'm
Yes.
not saying those conversations don't have to happen, because we live in reality, but that if that's all we pass to our children, we are really good at teaching our children to survive, really good
Yeah.
at teaching our culture to be resilient in the face of, like, we were made for 2025. Like, Black people are ready for 2025 because we've been ready. Like, we've been training for a long time for where we are in this moment of time.
We've
But
trained
we
for
didn't,
this. Yeah.
we trained, we ready. We could teach courses. But what we haven't taught, which you said, is to make that space for joy and to make it a priority in a
Mhm.
way that now is the time to claim that. Because if we don't claim it now, like you said, no one is going to create it for us. And it doesn't have to be as complicated or as difficult as we think it is to bring that into our life. And I think that's really important too.
Will you break down, like, school age level, what epigenetics is? Because I realize there is a level of situalism there that everyone might not have. So will you break down for our
Yeah.
audience that transgenerational trauma,
Yeah.
epigenetics, maybe even that research study that I think there were those Norwegian scientists who saw that the transatlantic slave trade was being passed down through mRNA, just stuff like that.
Yeah, it's actually in the DNA. So it's
Yeah.
basically and simplistically that trauma is now making its way into our DNA, which is not something people believed before. They never believed. They said everybody understood that trauma, if you grew up with in a bad childhood, that you develop some behaviors, right? That it's going to influence how you parent. Like everybody understood that, but what they didn't know that they're finding more and more, and that to that study's point is that it's literally in the DNA that you are carrying the trauma of your grandmother within you. And so if your grandmother was really stressed out, and my grandma for sure was, that it is showing up. And it's also they're finding a link between why certain diseases, when we talk about genetics and certain predisposition to diseases, why one, certain diseases are linked to trauma. But again, now let's make the final connection. If it's in your genes, the trauma, so is the predisposition to some of the diseases that Black folks have and Native folks have and other types of folks who have experienced high levels of generational trauma where like everybody is experiencing, like who knows what COVID's going to do to folks, but that's an example of modern day trauma, right? Where it's like a collective group of people are all experiencing something at once that's highly traumatic, that is life threatening. Like we all thought we were going to die at some point in 2020. Like we were genuinely afraid because they're like, we don't got a cure for this and people are dying. And so that kind of trauma impacts your DNA. It literally degrades your DNA, and it then influences and impacts. If you have a child, it goes to the child and it
Mhm.
goes to their child. And so we called it generational curses. Like we're breaking generational curses. And now we know there's actual data and genetics that say it's built within you. And it doesn't mean you can't do something about it. But when you know that's the case, it's more of a calling to fight against it. The same way we try to fight against heart disease, the same way we try to fight against diabetes, or if people tell us, like, you got to watch your diet or you've got to think this different way, we need to think about joy as the antidote to the kind of trauma that has been passed down that is impacting our health.
Okay, Kelly. My grandmother and grandfather were trailblazers because they got divorced back in the 50s and 60s when people weren't doing that.
Oh, yeah.
And then
No
on
one's doing
this
that.
side of the family, it was stress, 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 stress. Kelly, what do I do? Like you said that I can fight against it. What does that look like practically? I'm speaking as myself, but also as an audience member who's like, right now, it sounds like I'm fated for
Yeah.
stress, disease, and a life of toil and struggle. You're saying I can fight practically day to day, week over week, month over month. What does it look like for me to not only turn off these genes, right? But turn on the God given genes for resilience and healing and hope and joy and overall wellness and serotonin. Like what do I do?
Yeah, and that's the thing too. Like in the medical community, they always say predisposition isn't a guarantee. Like just because you're predisposed for a thing does not mean you're going to get it. And what do they say to do? Like, what are the ways to prevent it? It's like if you have a predisposition to diabetes, then it's like make sure that you have a balanced diet. Doesn't mean you have to go so hard and never have anything sugary, but it's like if you know that, then your diet cannot be McDonald's and Coca-Cola all day long every day. You're going to make sure that predisposition happens. And so if you think about it that way, when it comes to joy, and it's a little more pleasant to do joy, to counteract
Mhm.
trauma and passing that down, is it's by having a joy practice. And I'm really passionate about teaching people about this because people think a joy practice means some kind of life overhaul. And I tell people a joy practice can be start at 5 minutes. It does not have to be, it builds, right? It becomes more. The same way we tell people now, if you want to eat healthy, don't cut out all the things you know you're not supposed to be eating. We say add some vegetables to what you're eating. Like eat what you shouldn't quote unquote be eating, which that's a whole other conversation. But like eat the things that maybe are not the best for you, but add a salad. We say to add. And so I tell folks add a joy practice. You're not going to like cure your anxiety overnight. You're not going to cure the ambition. But what can that look like? It is really really simple. You find little things to build joy in your day. So for me, I give myself 5 minutes in the morning and I either will listen to music that I like, or I often listen to some kind of coaching that's like positive and has me thinking positively. I write a gratitude list. It is making sure you get your water in. It is making sure you hug somebody you love. I mean, it starts small and then you just keep doing it and doing it. The second thing I tell people that will help them is I call it minimal mindfulness, finding ways on 60 seconds or less to regulate your nervous system. And they can be really small. Like I will send a YouTube video to you that runs through like 5 of them in 5 minutes so you can share with your audience. But it's
Love that.
real simple. I do them all the time. Some of it's with eye movement, some of it's humming. Black people humming, we know, has been a coping mechanism that regulates the nervous system. That's why slaves did it. And so humming your favorite song just while you're like rubbing your chest regulates your nervous system.
Mhm.
And those kinds of things, it is small little actions that you do repeatedly that is what saves us. It is not, what I did crashing out in 2009. I mean, it did save my life, but if I had done some joy practices before, maybe I wouldn't have got to this point where I had to like do the great crash out of 2009. Stock market crashed and so did I. On my way out of job. Like maybe we don't have to
I
do
say
that.
that sometimes you have to lose your mind to find it though, but
You do some you do sometimes, but it's usually when things have gotten so extreme though.
yes.
Right? Like if we start from childhood, you don't have to necessarily do a huge correct. And that's what I want people to do now. It's like I want y'all not to wait till you on the ground or cussing people out or whatever that looks like for you to crash out. You could do something today that could stall that and actually turn the whole course of your life around without it having to be an extreme. And what we're taught is like just go to the edge and then pull back. It's like, well, maybe we don't because some people are going to fall off that edge and they're not going to come back.
Yeah, and
And we
prevention is
don't
the
want
best
those folks.
medicine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, so to recap, we want to start with adding a joy practice, and it doesn't have to be a super long morning routine. It can be 5 minutes. Gratitude journal is a good example. Humming is a good example. Sounds like some other somatic things, like you mentioned, eye movement, and then like holding your chest. That's something I also wanted to look into, was like somatic trauma therapy, because I'm realizing as much therapy as I've done, like cognitive behavioral therapy, and my therapist is probably going to be disappointed. I don't know if I've built in like an intentional time each day to do something I love. Like I will drink coffee or matcha because I love it, but like outside of that, like I don't I've been this is why I'm still burnt out, because I'm still just like chugging and like pushing and trying to get things done. And even someone who's been in therapy for a long time, I still haven't carved that time out each day. Like I'll carve time out to read my Bible and to pray, but not to just do something fun that I love, which I I wonder how many people do that, like regardless of gender or ethnicity. Um, Especially as Americans, we're the most depressed and anxious people, aren't
Yes.
we? So
Yes.
like I just wonder how many people do that. I think that's really, it's simple, but I think it's cutting edge.
It takes intention. And it's even
Yeah.
with like, so to your point, you're going through your day, make matcha joyful, meaning
Yeah.
that it's like a thing you love, but you stop and enjoy it. You sit in the car for 5 more minutes and sip on your coffee. Because there's a lot of people who put their love is in their coffee, right? Like they have the right combination, they have a special recipe nobody does. It's like enjoy and be present and acknowledge the joy when you're putting the coffee together. Acknowledge the joy when you take the first sip. Close your eyes and be like, this is peace. This is joy. It can start that small. It can start that small and then it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And soon you're setting boundaries. You're saying, I tell people take one thing off their list or to do list, go through the list, take one thing off. Because especially Black women, take one thing off. There's always, you got too much on the day. Take one thing off. It really is. I take myself on creative dates. I'm about to go tonight. I'm going to go to a classical music concert. And I'm just like, I want to go to take myself out to places that make me think but excited. Like I'm excited to get my brain engaged, but I'm like, oh, I want to think that's joy to me. Again, everyone's different, but it can expand and get bigger and bigger. It starts though with 5 minutes of appreciating your matcha, and it can grow to like it is the foundation of everything I do. Now, I honestly say the thing I'm most proud of when people ask me, what are you most proud of? What comes out of my mouth is that I actually spend time centering joy. That is the thing I am most proud of that I have done in my life. Forget the accomplishment, that I actually try to lead joy forward. Like I live a joy led life and not an anxiety led life, though I have anxiety. How can you not? But that I try to live, I go back to joy. Like even when I'm anxious, I go back to joy. And to your point, somatic practices really work, and they don't have to substitute cognitive behavioral therapy, but they do work. The data tells us that people do extremely well with somatic practices because there's something they can do at home. They
Mhm.
can do repeatedly. They don't have to wait to talk to somebody about it. And it regulates their nervous system. So they are more likely to pause and engage with joy. You're not going to engage with joy when you're dysregulated and anxious. And like, that's not the time you start. It's like, you just want to bring yourself to like peace. So being able to do more somatic work, which you can get no shortage of, really short practices, will help you make space for joy.
Could you give some examples of, somatic exercises that people could start today? Could you also explain what
Yeah.
a somatic practice is to our audience?
So it's just body led work. It is somatic practices is body led mental health. So it's basically your body contains when you are stressed. The way I explain it to people is like if you want to know what dysregulation feels like, everyone can relate to this. You are having the best day ever. You had the best vacation you could possibly imagine. You got up, you a coffee drinker, you're a matcha drinker. It's the most perfect matcha you've ever had. It's Monday. You roll into work and you could not get higher. The playlist, the traffic was perfect. You are at a high. And then you get to work and a couple things either happen. You run into the coworker you can't stand.
Mhm.
You get an email or you get the text or the email on your phone. And what immediately happens when you get that text and that email? That's like the worst coworker, fire, something bad's happening, some bad news. Your body reacts as if it's being attacked. Like all of a
My
sudden
chest
you're
is tight
tense.
now. Yeah.
Yes, your chest is tight, your stomach hurts, you're thinking of special four-letter words, you are a whole different person, right? In literally a snap. It took a half a second to read a headline, to see a person's face. It doesn't take long. That is the power of your body over your mental health. All that good news, all that good energy, gone. And it
Mhm.
takes hours. People will say it takes them hours to get past it. You just spend the whole day telling everybody, can you believe this email? Can you believe this person said this to me? It derails your whole day. And so
Yeah. I heard it
somatic
takes
work,
like 6 hours.
yes, it takes like 6 hours for some people. It can take longer for some folks, but it will derail your whole day. And your body that regulates your emotions is now heightened. It's aware, it's aroused, what we call aroused in a way that's like someone could attack me at any moment physically, like I could be physically harmed. And that stops what we call higher cognitive functioning. The way I say it is like when people are in that kind of activated state where you're annoyed, it takes away elegance. That's the when someone told me that, I was like, I get that now. I get what you're saying. They're like, you can function, but your elegance, that extra
Mhm.
piece of like that's just you, that special sauce, that is taking a hit. That does not come online, or it comes online at 10%. And so for so many of us, we have this like elegance or divinity or special sauce in us that we don't get access to because we spend our whole days annoyed, fighting, trying to survive. And so somatic work, in contrast, it will bring your body back to the person that loved their matcha. Now, it will not last as long, so you have to repeatedly do it. But when you can regulate your nervous system, it puts elegance back online. So when you do these exercises, you feel your body literally like your shoulders drop, your body drops, you drop into relaxation and peace, and that's lets your body come back online, that lets elegance come back online, that lets joy sneak on through. And so it's learning those practices to be able to bring that back into the day.
What are some somatic techniques that you can give us today? And
So
some
one
overall burnout avoidance techniques as well as
yes.
somatic.
Good, good, good. Okay, all of this is great. So, some somatic techniques. I'll say some ones that are very easy that people do. If you love taking a bath, put some Epsom salts or magnesium in it. That actually does regulate your nervous system. So, if you're already doing that, just be intentional about it. So, but that takes more time. We're going to work from longer to shorter, but I'm just giving an example of things that people already do that are somatic practices. If you engage in the arts, that helps regulate your nervous system, especially if you are a painter or a singer or you're practicing a craft. It doesn't matter what the craft is, writing, there's something about that that also helps regulate the nervous system. So I like to start with things that you probably might be already doing and just say, do more of that. Like, just put more of that in your life. Other ways to do somatic work is progressive muscle relaxation. So I tell folks that means that, like, I'm going to show it with my hands if you're watching this visually, because obviously we start at our feet, though. Typically, you start at your feet, and you could do this lying down or sitting up, and you just clench parts of your body. So I'm going to use my fist. It's like I'm clenching my fist, and I might count in my head to 10, clenching them to the max. And then I release and take a breath as I release. And you do that from your feet all the way up to the top of your head. And like even like scrunching your face, which doesn't look so attractive on camera, but like you scrunch your face, you bring tension to your body, and then you release the tension. And you do that over and over again as you climb up. But you start your feet, then you might clench your legs, and you might clench your thighs, you might clench your pelvis, all those things as you work your way and you let go of tension, and you'll feel your shoulders drop. You'll feel your body kind of come into itself. The last
Do you
one,
have
because
to
we are
start with
visual.
your feet? Do you
I
have to
usually
s
tell people to, but it doesn't matter. I mean, honestly, it doesn't matter, but it just makes people be more mindful because they get to all the body. So if you
right.
want to start at your head and work your way down, that's fine. But we want you to get every part of your body engaged in this exercise. So that's
Mhm.
the thing I would say. However
Oh,
you start
get
it is
every part.
fine.
Okay.
Get every part. Get your arms, tense your arms up, tense your hands up. Like make sure you tense as much as you can and then let go.
Okay.
And then
And
the
is the
go ahead.
breathing rhythm with it, sorry, just to get clarity, is the breathing rhythm with it as you're doing that 10-second tense, are you breathing in and then you're releasing as you're exhaling as
Yes.
you release the tension?
Yes.
Okay.
That helps. And you naturally do it too. You can't do that
Okay.
part wrong. You
Okay.
naturally are gonna your breathing is gonna kind of change, and you're gonna kind of like because you're so tense, you're gonna like let go, right? So that's one. One of my favorites that I do in bed, out and about, it doesn't matter. Is this one I'll show because I'm on camera and there's like videos that will do this. This is the vagus nerve reset. So one of the things I do is I put my hands behind my head
Mhm.
and I put them behind like my neck. You can also, if you this isn't available to you because you've got like shoulder problems, you can also just do this. You can just put your hands behind your back.
Lord
But
have
it's easier to put it over. I just do hands behind my neck.
okay.
And what I do is I do not move my neck and I do not move my head at all. And I turn my eyes to the 3 o'clock position of a clock. And you do this until you feel the need to, I want to yawn, sigh, or swallow. And the first time you do it, it could take like up to a minute, but it usually takes a lot quicker. Like I want to yawn desperately, but I'm talking. So I'll turn, no, don't move your head, don't move your neck, just your eyes to 3 o'clock. And then you either wait till you want to sigh, swallow, or yawn. Yep, you yawned. And then you bring your eyes back forward, and then you
Uh-huh.
do it on the other side. And you just wait, do 6 o'clock. Then you turn your eyes to 6 o'clock position and you wait until you want to sigh, yawn, or swallow. And sometimes I will tell people one side is sometimes harder than the other. For me, my left side's harder, but you yawn both
Mhm.
times. It takes longer on my left than it does on my right. You've just released your vagus nerve.
Oh, I love this. I'm gonna
You
rewatch
like,
it.
you literally just release all the tension in your body. You cannot keep tension while doing that.
Okay.
It's really easy to do. I do it in bed and it helps me sleep. Like if I have racing thoughts or I'm just stressed, I do that and it relaxes me enough because I'm tired. I'm just overtired. So if I do that, my body gets to be like, we're tired, Kelley. Just go to sleep. Like, what are we doing?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
that space allows me to turn over and sleep.
Okay.
And you just do this repeatedly. Like you do this often. I do this when I'm sitting on the couch. I do this when I'm doing a training. I do this in a way, especially if you do behind your back, people can't tell what you're doing. You're just looking off to the side. You're in a meeting. No one's paying attention to you, right? It's really powerful to do that. And it helps release that vagus nerve.
Is it the same rules with the back, like you don't move your spine and
Don't move your head or neck. The key is it's
oh,
just
don't
eye
move the head or
movement.
neck. Okay.
No head or neck movement. It's just your eyes. You move your eye to 3 o'clock, then forward, 6 o'clock, then forward. You imagine a clock.
I love that.
And it's very powerful and it's very useful and you can do it over and over again. And another one you can do, this will be the last one I'll give you. There's another one you can do that is very easy to do because no one knows what you're doing. And it's called, if you've ever done yoga or Pilates, they tell you like soften your gaze. They're like, you can close your
Mm.
eyes or you can soften your gaze. I call this soften your gaze. And this requires you to focus really intensely on a spot. So I'm
Mhm,
on a Mac camera. So I know that I'm on camera because I got a little green light showing me that I'm
mhm,
on camera. So if I focus on that, and what you do is you, again, key is we're not moving our neck, we're not moving our head. We are focused on something. You got a sticky
mhm,
in front of you, a picture, whatever. I don't care what it is. You just focus on something in front of you. You don't move your body, you don't move your neck, and you don't move your eyes. And what you do instead is you bring, I'm going to, for the camera, I'm going to bring myself in. You bring your focus without movement of any kind to your sides or your periphery. So for me, I'd be off camera if I did it, but I would do this, like just do this. But
mhm.
doing this out to your periphery and hold, it gets hard to hold your arms up because by focusing intently on a point, but paying attention to what's going on the sides of your eyes without moving your body, relaxes your vagus nerve as well. And it does it almost automatically. You may not feel as profound as the other one, but it is doing it because, like, for me, it gets
No, my
harder.
arms dropped immediately.
Yeah, it gets harder to keep my arms up. And so
Yeah.
you don't need to put your arms up, but to practice it, to get used to what I'm talking
Oh.
about, do
Uh-huh,
your arms so you know what you're supposed to be paying attention to. But you get to the point where, like, I can do this just staring at my light and pay attention to what's going on the side, and I can feel my shoulders drop. I want to lean back and relax. And that's something you can do. Nobody knows what you're doing. Nobody has
yeah.
a clue. You could do that during your workday. You could do that sitting in traffic for 2 seconds. Don't do it too long.
Uh,
Pay attention, y'all. But like, you could do it really quickly and it will regulate your nervous system.
that is so great. So I know that those are somatic techniques, but that's also gonna help with the burnout that we
Oh,
feel.
yeah.
And gosh, there's so many things I would love to talk about with you, like hypervigilance or the women who have gone in the opposite direction. Maybe they aren't overachievers, but now they're stuck in freeze mode. And maybe it's clinical depression. Maybe it's their burnout looks like they've kind of lost their verve and their drive and the sweetness of life. um, I guess could you quickly speak to that? Because I don't want to leave those girlies
Yeah.
out. Because I know for me, I can ping pong between the two. Like right now, it's like go, 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 go. But in my 20s, I know that I was um like most black people, high functioning depressed.
Yes.
High functioning, right? So what about those women who just kind of lose all sense of like their ambition and goals in life because the burnout has maybe moved to like maybe a despair, a hopelessness,
Yeah.
a discouragement.
Yeah. So in those instances, first of all, that is so relatable and
Yeah.
also so painful. And a lot of people are in that place and they're also carry a lot of shame about that. But there's so many people who
Yeah.
feel that way. And that's how they respond to burnout, right? So first, making space to acknowledge that. And secondly, to say, one, those somatic exercises will work as well. Do
Mhm.
those because they do help your body. Your body needs a little something to, like, in this case, it would this the nervous system regulation. When you're depressed, it helps elevate a little bit. It's not going to bring you joy doing these exercises. I'm not trying to sell that, but it brings you back into your body. And a lot of people who experience depression feel numb and they feel disconnected from their body. So this is a moment. It's also a mindful moment. So it starts with that. So doing that, and also it's like depending on where you are in that continuum, right, of depression, it may be getting help, maybe talking to somebody. It may require medication. If you're just starting off on that journey, it is about acknowledging it, naming it, and then trying to put in those joy practices. It's about bleeding out to community sometimes, right? If you have a friend or something, it's about saying, this is a difficult moment for me right now. Let's chat. It is about not isolating because there's like those moments, those decisions we make where it's like, this is getting bad and there's decisions I can make that can make it the same, stop in its tracks, or
Mhm.
become worse, or even
Mhm.
get a little better. And so it's about navigating that support system. It's about setting some boundaries and prioritizing rest, right? If you feel like I'm starting to get numb, I'm starting to feel disconnected, I'm starting to be angry at everybody, it's about prioritizing rest and starting back on that and starting back to, like, okay, what are the things that used to make me joy? And if I don't know what those are anymore, what can I do to kind of bring them back? Is it like just starting with coloring? Is there something small I can do that can bring me back into my body and into something that's not going to move the needle worse? And if it's further along the line, do not be ashamed to get help. Like, we've all been there. I've treated my anxiety, and my burnout was clinical and I needed to get treatment for it. And so there's no shame in that either. And we need to normalize that.
Mhm. What things will make it worse that you want us to avoid?
Isolating. So staying by yourself, not doing what you need to do, pushing through makes it worse as the other thing. Like, we are taught to push through and push, push, push. And the type of pushing through that people do when they're depressed is not necessarily healthy. And I don't mean pushing through like pushing yourself to take a shower or like groom yourself. Like, that type of pushing is not necessarily what's going to cause it. But we're talking about, doing this particular activity or being with this particular person or going to this particular job the way you're going to the job. It's like, well, I'll just ignore it. I'm just going to push through and I'll make it okay at work and then be really bad at home, right? I just can't get out of bed or whatever. That catches up with you. So don't do that. Don't ignore it. And also, talking to ourselves and saying it's not so bad and minimizing it makes it worse. Saying to ourselves, girl, you've been through worse than this. Girl, your mom did worse than this. We didn't, your Rosa Parks didn't sit on a bus so you could be sad to go to work. That kind of self talk that's negative.
There
We
are
don't want
hungry
to do that.
kids. Yeah.
Yeah, there are kids in Africa. Our parents always say, there are starving children in Africa. Um, that kind of mentality, that does not help. It just fuels depression, because when you can't meet that standard, that unreasonable standard, you get depressed.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, Kelly, this can go on for so long. This has helped me because I was realizing, I was like, this is a timely episode because I think I'm burnt out. And I needed I didn't know as many somatic exercises. I knew about like some breathing techniques, but and like moving your eyes from side to side. But what you said, I think is probably going to be so much more helpful for me. So listen, this was for me, but we wanted to do like a fun, quick to close
Okay.
out
Okay.
lightning round with you, self care, this or that.
Okay.
So do you prefer an Epsom salt bath or massage?
Oh, that's a good one. I'm gonna say I love both equally, but I have less access to massage. So if I could get a massage every day, I'll probably take that, which I'm shocked to
Really?
say, because
Okay.
I love me a bath. But I'm like, wait a minute, if I could get a massage every time I wanted it, yes.
Yes, every time I wanted it. Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
can't. So I guess I'll say bath.
Yeah. Okay. I like baths too because you can like you don't have to rely on someone for it, like you said.
No.
Okay. Yoga or Pilates.
Pilates. Although I do love
Pilates.
yoga. Pilates girl.
Yeah. Okay. Scented candles or essential oils?
I love a candle. I love both, but I think I'm gonna go candle. But
Yeah,
I'm scent
same.
sensitive. So like a mild candle is
Okay.
my jam.
Okay. Going to bed early or sleeping in?
Sleeping in.
Same. Same. Okay. Journaling or meditating?
Journaling.
Okay. Staying in or getting out in nature?
I mean, I like both, but I do like my walks. I find myself getting out in nature. I find myself, if I have the choice between the two, I do think going for a nice walk and but I love sitting in my pajamas. I mean, I can't lie. I can't lie. People listen to this episode be like, Kelly, when you in nature? First of all,
Right.
you set up here and said, but I do my morning walks. Every day I go out. If it's not like raining or freezing, I go outside. So I do like my pajamas, but I find the benefits of walking.
Yeah.
I feel better. I feel so much better. And my brain gets to like go on a little journey, and I have great ideas when I'm walking
Yeah.
in the morning. So I'd say getting out in nature.
Yeah. I mean, I love viewing nature from inside where it's
Yeah,
cozy.
that's
Like, I have
correct.
no problem with nature, but I
Yeah.
would prefer a view, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yes, me too. Let me get a cabin. Can we cabin in the
Baby.
woods or like on a pond? But I do like a morning walk. Like again, I'm not talking about hiking and all that kind of stuff. I
Right.
just mean like a nice morning walk. I have a nice little back area here where it's like there's leaves and trees and squirrels and all kinds of things that I like.
DC is also beautiful. That's my hometown, and DC is just really a beautiful city. It's not like a lot of places that are just a concrete jungle. DC has
Yes.
made sure to kind of preserve trees and nature. It's like people come for the cherry blossoms and everything like that. So,
Yeah, it
but
makes a
Kelly, I
difference.
got to. It makes a difference. Like that's I was thinking about like some other cities I would want to move to, but I was like, there's no trees. Like I couldn't do this. But honestly, Kelly, it has been a pleasure. I have enjoyed this conversation so much. I'm sure you can tell. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your expertise with us and your story with us. Where can we find you?
You can find me at Black Girl Burnout. Literally, it's that simple. I'm on everything and everywhere Black Girl Burnout. So there's the podcast, right? Just find me on all major platforms. Black Girl Burnout's the podcast. I also have a pretty robust Substack now. Black Girl Burnout's the Substack. TikTok, Instagram. Guess what it is? Black Girl Burnout. So you
Awesome.
can find me there.
Love the consistency. All right, y'all, go follow her. Get your daily dose, okay? Sit at the feet of someone who has done the work and is doing the work and helping others. That is it for this episode of the Orbital Tribe. Thank you guys for listening in. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share. All right, until next time.